Wasn't that? I tell you, I've just gone through the track there. I applied for the road, it's only mine and a member of the jump. Yes. Right? Never got it, no friend. I applied for the fixed point. Yesterday, I got table comments on the reflection saying, unfortunately, you oversubscribed and you just I know. And I just see they're all down there.
They're all down there to get the funds from.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'll get all that.
Yeah.
So, it's done a minister, government secretary of state, and just got a grill of that. I did get into the cat. Whatever he said to her, once she goes to the restaurant, it's just shot in and hit him and shoot. It's her off, yeah. Yeah, is he still wearing that like the young brother?
They both got roads.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, they both got roads. So I think this one looking for you.
If he walks down, you might get something. You might sick. You're not asking for he always trying to do that because he's been out.
What a different he's still tricky.
What do you think of that?
I mean, a lot of it's that all the details of the car. And then one shot when they're growing up. That was what it was. It was waiting. It's got lots of vertical slow-mo. Like, as much as I can grind out. Probably when I got casting it. I don't you have to capture your own stuff. Yeah.
Outstanding, thank you. How are you?
That's what I do. Whoever steals it.
How you flag?
Yeah, and they tend to not do as much as I do, for example, like it's just building and this and that, so it's not exactly.
Did you bring that? The very face of the lady, see that t-shirt. But I want you to lean forward on the. That's it, like this. That's it.
Sunday. Yeah, I'm ruined every day. It's been nice and overcast.
Right, let's do it.
Parliament. And so when I got to Parliament, I got a call from Alex saying, well, from one of the reporters there, said, why is that happening? And he said, well, what is it? I said, don't you know? 70 or 50 years ago. So I saw myself.
celebrity about it. The baptism of Jeff everything he does. Like,
How long are you there for? How long about 6 hours?
It's a 12, 13 hour day. It's quite cool, it's quite fun. Yeah. Especially if you're roaming, like you get to hang out with some children and stuff. So yeah, my friend was, I was editing, my friend was yeah, she got to chat to Death Nicole. I wonder if maybe that is. Maybe it's the case that no one was trapped in cold or something. Yeah, that's which is fair. Well, we've probably been told. Yeah.
Well, he's on to races.
Right.
So you're in this hotel?
Yeah, he used to be whenever he was in club. Like, I'd get something because he would at least go to 10. He would even get one. Running out. Something over his face as well.
Newspaper.
Yeah, he's gone out of school.
Mask, sunglasses, cap.
The hardest to put yeah, like, oh, that's it. What, just, yeah, that exactly.
It's not impossible. I think the SCG only come out once.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But then we want to go home.
I think it's go.
Oh no, really? You go back to the office? Oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah, speak to Mark. Use that. Yeah, right. That's the one. It's just cheap. It's not creating any wet, just cheap. It's just trim, get it up. I'm hoping if I get it all semi-uploaded now, I can sit on the train and catch it. And then, yeah, just go straight home.
Good?
Yeah. Not good. Not bad journey today. 40 minutes to get here. Get here, like, yeah, not bad. Probably close to an hour with all the traffic with it. Yeah. No, well, I used to live in Wimbledon, and it used to take me so long to get Central. Like, this is district. Oh, and that's like the runs. Yeah. I'm going to ride the ND, I think. What's going to do with that? not like that. That's an overrun, mate. Like, they have to be super strict, right? So the whole security. They have to leave on time. I think something like that. It's not really much. Right. Good job. You're doing great. Here you go. Here's an overview. I guess all the people that go right. Oh really? Oh, that paint. The reveal. I kind of think it's cool. Like, you know, it's cool. It's like an abstract. It's not really expecting at all. But it's Charles' reaction to it. You just didn't know what to say. I'm sure he didn't know. He would definitely see it. I think. I'd hope so. It's not like the Ronaldo one where it's not there. That would be fun. Give us something! At least you got a shot of the... Yeah, that's late. Did you see the Venice Film Festival? When I did that, years ago. I think it was in the West Island where they had horses. My position was up there. And not one of the horses
for the small the sound.
Yeah.
Picking up it as a call issue.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure.
Is it possible to leave the laptop in this way? Long enough.
Microphone testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, Ben. Can you hear me?
And again, settings.
Hi, Jen. We're setting it up. Can you hear me? You're muted. No, the other way. Jennifer, try speaking.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, great.
It works. Thank you. It works. Okay, and this way you can see what the rest of us see.
We use the TV with the finger on top. The TV with the finger on top so she can put her.
Oh, okay. It's in this system.
Yeah?
Did you want a full screen or
Sorry?
do you want a full screen or are you happy with it being split like that?
Oh. Oh God, I wouldn't touch it.
Okay. I mean, all you have to do is pin her. It makes her
Pin her.
Yeah.
Right. I'll pin you. Tell me how to pin.
Go up to those 3 dots just there. Okay. 3 dots. Pin. Bingo. Look at that.
Oh. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would imagine that the remote of the TV is
How much time do we have? 'Cause I have no idea how this TV remote is going to work.
okay.
Is it 12:30 that we wanted to start?
Yes.
Okay.
Playing around.
Hello. Okay, for everybody who's got an interview with Stella afterwards, we're going to take Stella downstairs in a separate room. It's 2 floors down. It's the room 1910. Okay, so I will be taking Stella down and we'll do the interviews with her there, and all the other speakers will be doing interviews here, and Kate will be in charge here and I will be downstairs. Okay, the room is called 1910. It's where the restaurant is, where we did Joseph Stiglitz, for those who were here for Joseph. Okay, perfect. You're going to get crucified. Yeah. Yeah. Just stand to the side. I have the nails on my handbag. Excellent. We're going to need to start pretty quick. Stella, you're there. Kristen, you're over there. And Rebecca, you're next to me. And Jen.
So this is?
Yeah, good. Fidel was there. Hello, hello, hello. Apologies for the few minutes delay in starting. I'm delighted to welcome you to the millionth FPA press briefing on the Assange case. And just we thought it was the last one a couple of months ago. Let's see if this is the last chance. We're here, of course, with Stella Assange, with Kristin Crafton, who is WikiLeaks editor-in-chief, Rebecca Vincent, who is RSF's Director of International Campaigns, and we have Jennifer Robinson, barrister, who is on video link, and it works, and we can hear her perfectly so far. As usual, we're going to start with a few remarks from all the speakers, and then we're going to get immediately into questions. So it's immediately over to you, Stella, if you want to remind us of how important this moment is.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. On Monday, we have the decisive hearing. Julian is just one decision away from being extradited. If the judges find against him on Monday, then there will be no further avenues for appeal in the UK, and the UK will move to extradite him. The timing is uncertain, but we know that in other cases, other national security cases of extraditions to the United States, the person has been extradited within 24 hours of a decision. The United States has been given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to change its case in order to get Julian extradited. Initially, it lost in January 2021. That was the initial magistrate's decision to deny extradition based on the mental health and physical conditions that Julian will be placed under if extradited. And then once that decision came through, the United States was allowed to change its case by issuing so-called assurances, which the High Court then accepted. And an extradition order was issued, and then Priti Patel, who at the time was the Home Secretary, in June 2022, I believe, issued her approval of the extradition as well. Julian then requested permission to appeal to the High Court, which was initially denied, and then when he sought a separate panel of High Court judges to review that decision, which is the current panel that Julian is before, in February, they gave a provisional permission to appeal to the High Court. And that provisional permission is subject to US so-called assurances. Now think about how bizarre this case is, where the United States has not only had 2 rounds of assurances, but also 3 sets of indictments. It seems like they are given endless chances to change their case in order to get Julian extradited to face 175 years for publishing evidence of US war crimes. And so here we are, 5 days from the decision, which will most likely come on Monday. I believe it's quite narrow, it's very narrow arguments for consideration. The judges already have the arguments on paper. There will be a hearing in the morning and maybe into the afternoon, and I can't say for certain, but I think it would be pretty likely that we expect a decision the same day. And it can go 3 different ways. Now, as I said earlier, Julian could, the judges could find against Julian, and he could then, he would then be placed in the process of extradition, and of course, As I've already said earlier, we would seek to get the European Court of Human Rights to stop that extradition through an order and put in the full application. We have a bit more time to do the full application to the European Court of Human Rights. These are two separate procedures. Or Julian could win this round, and winning this round would mean that the court would say, well, actually, we don't find the US diplomatic note to be responsive to what we asked them to do. And I think Jen will probably go into the detail of that, Jennifer Robinson. And so if they rule in Julian's favor, that means that a full hearing will take place on these narrow issues before the High Court at a later date, and Julian will most likely just remain in Belmarsh prison for months and months to come until there is a full High Court appeal. There is a third possibility, which is that there is discretion by the High Court judges at this stage. And there is very narrow arguments before the court, and they could decide to roll up the hearing, as in they could decide to have a full High Court appeal hearing. So I believe, and I have the sense that anything could happen at this stage. Julian could be extradited, or he could be freed, and I think it's important to have that in mind, that this has gone on for over 5 years. Julian has been in the UK's most notorious prison for this entire time, and 7 years preceding that in the Ecuadorian embassy, and 1.5 years under house arrest. In fact, every day since the 7th of December 2010, he has been in one form of detention or another. And the 7th of December 2010 is 7 days after WikiLeaks started publishing the diplomatic cables. I think I'll...
Thank you. Yeah, Kristen. Or, yeah, and
Well, thank you, FPA, for hosting this meeting, and thank you all for coming here. It is very valuable for us to have your attention to the case. I want to emphasize that you not only look at the process in the courts here in the UK. It is abundantly clear, of course, that the process in the courts in the United Kingdom are corrupt. The case is rigged against Julian. As Stella mentions, it is evident from all the opportunities that the United States has had been offered to amend their case when it was about to collapse. The judges here come out and they offer the opportunity to amend. I know these are harsh words, and words that we usually have for courts in non-European countries, non-Western countries. But I've come to the opinion that is absolutely the case. This is institutional corruption on a judicial level. Julian Assange is a political prisoner. It's abundantly clear. And I hope that you can look into the case, the details of the case, where the evidence is basically screaming at you. Look, for example, at paragraph 210 in the last ruling by the courts here, when they denied to Julian, almost on all points, the opportunity to appeal. Even all of those arguments were so strong that under normal circumstances he should be allowed to appeal. Let me dwell on that specific one. Paragraph 210. This is where Julian argues, or Julian's lawyers argues on his behalf, that it should be abundantly clear that you cannot extradite an individual to a country whose secret service has drawn up plots to kidnap or assassinate the individual. And this has been made known in stories that have not been repudiated, which have been confirmed. And I'm referring to the CIA plot to kidnap or assassinate Julian in 2017, at the time when Mike Pompeo was director of the agency. Now, what did the court say in this paragraph? This is like something out of Alice in Wonderland. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm pretty close. You will find out if you look it up. The argument is this. even if it is credible that the CIA did plot to kidnap or kill Julian Assange in the United States, if he is legally extradited through a lawful process, the need to kidnap and assassinate him falls away. Thereby, it is not an argument for an appeal. Can you believe this? This is something you read out of papers in the Royal Court of Justice. It's unbelievable. So, the judicial process is rigged. We have been focusing on the political aspect of the case and a political solution. And it has been bearing fruit. More and more political leaders are coming to the side of Julian. They see the absurdity in this case and how serious implications this could have for press freedom worldwide. All progressive leaders of Latin America have come out in support of Julian Assange. Of course, his prime minister in his home country, Anthony Albanese, has been in full support of the demand that this case is closed. More and more politicians on our end of the world have also come out and said, this is enough. Even Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, said about 3 weeks ago that Julian Assange should not be extradited. All major organizations that care about freedom of speech and freedom of expression see the danger in this and are supporting Julian. The European Council has mandated their Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Expression to write a report on the case, and the representative actually is in the room. Is Ivarsdóttir, who is the Special Rapporteur from PACE, and she met Julian Assange in Belmarsh prison yesterday. But it's important that the focus is on the court to expose how crooked this case is. So I welcome you here, and I hope you will put the focus on the judges on Monday, because they need scrutiny, definite scrutiny, and it is a knowledge of the case that creates the outrage that possibly will lead to the right outcome, that he walks free.
Thank you, Kristen. Rebecca, and then come to you, Jen.
Thanks indeed. It's really a shame we've had to have so many of these briefings, actually. This has been a very long and convoluted process. My organization, Reporters Without Borders, has been monitoring proceedings since 2020 in various courts. Monday's hearing is, of course, crucial. My organization defends Julian Assange because of the implications it has for press freedom. So there's still often a lot of noise around the case that tries to make it about other things. But for us, it very much is about press freedom. It's about journalism. The publication of the cables and the other documents was in the public interest. It informed public interest reporting around the world. We still see stories being published on the basis of these leaks. So what is being considered here is a normal journalistic practice, and that is what is at stake, because if Julian Assange is brought to the US, if he is prosecuted under the Espionage Act, the precedent is then set for the same sort of case to be applied to any publisher, any journalist, any source. Any media organization that works with leaked classified information could find themselves in the same situation. At RSF, our hope for justice here in the UK is not completely diminished. At each stage, that space for hope shrinks, but a small glimmer of hope is still there, and that is what we're hoping for on Monday. It is not too late for there to be some form of justice at this late stage to prevent Julian Assange's extradition through legal means. If we see the opposite on Monday, if we see a definitive decision, that means that the UK proceedings will be closed. It is crucial that his rights under the European Convention are respected, that the UK respects its obligations under the European Convention, and that he's able to pursue an appeal in Strasbourg and to not be extradited during that time. The entire world will be watching the behavior of this government if that is the scenario that we find ourselves in. But these three remaining grounds deserve full consideration. They deserve a proper hearing. The substance is incredibly important. So if this is just closed politely because of these political promises between states, that is a real shame. And that will enable the most dangerous press freedom prosecution of our time. So I want to be very clear about that. And I know Jen will add some more on the legal case, but I'll hand over to her now. I'm happy to discuss that further.
Yes, Jen, if you want to shed some light on what the avenues are now with this last hearing.
Sure. Well, first, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm joining you from Australia. And just to say a few words about Australia, I'm a fellow Australian citizen. Julian is an Australian citizen, and as Kristen mentioned, the Australian government has put their support behind Julian Assange. So from here in Australia, I can say that we are working closely with our Prime Minister and our Attorney General and the Australian government to try to seek a resolution of this case, and we continue to demand that Julian be released, the case be brought to an end, and he be brought home to Australia. It's important for people to remember it's not just the Australian government's support, there is bipartisan political support for Julian Assange here in Australia, and just recently we had a parliamentary resolution go through our parliament with 2/3 of the parliament's support calling on the UK and the US to drop this case and to allow Julian to return home to Australia. So that's important political context in which we understand this next very important stage of the case. And as Stella mentioned, we keep saying it's the final briefing, but really Julian could be extradited next week. And so this case is of huge legal significance, not just for Julian, but for journalists everywhere. He faces 175 years in prison for receiving, possessing and publishing national security information, for publishing truthful information about the United States. And what the US is doing with this case is setting a precedent where they're exercising jurisdiction over any journalist or editor anywhere in the world who receives, possesses and publishes US information in circumstances where they will argue in the US courts, and they intend to argue in Julian's case that he will not benefit from First Amendment protections, and that none of you in this room, if you are sought for prosecution in the United States, they will seek to exercise their jurisdiction over you, have you criminally prosecuted without any free speech protections. So it is incredibly important, and that is the crux of the issue that will be before the court on Monday. As Stella explained, this case has a long and flawed history. It's a flawed indictment. It's a flawed extradition request that the US has been given ample opportunity to continually remedy, and we say it is fundamentally flawed. It should never have been brought in the first place and should be rejected, and Julian should not be extradited. The key issues that we face here, though, now, as you know, in February there was an appeal hearing where Julian sought permission to appeal both against the Secretary of State's decision to extradite him and against the earlier district court's decision to extradite him. Of course, we won on the basis that his extradition would be oppressive on the grounds of medical evidence. The US offered an assurance, which was not tested by the court and was waved through without us being able to make detailed submissions about it. And therefore, we're in the position of having to appeal against the outstanding grounds that we were initially not successful on before the Magistrates' Court. As a result of that hearing last month, we had the decision from the court at the end of March saying that they would grant us provisional permission to appeal on 3 separate grounds. Those being related to the First Amendment, that Julian as an Australian citizen, it is clear that the US prosecutor is going to argue that he will not benefit at all from First Amendment protections because he's a foreign national, and that on that basis he would also be discriminated against on the basis that he is not a US citizen on the basis of his nationality, he's Australian. And finally, we were granted provisional leave to appeal on the grounds that once extradited to the United States, Julian could be subjected to the death penalty. Now, the court granted provisional leave to appeal, but gave the US the opportunity, again, to provide assurances in response to these concerns that have been raised. The US provided those assurances, and that's now triggered the process where we've had an opportunity to make submissions in response to those assurances. The US has responded, and on Monday we'll have a hearing where the court will hear those arguments, having received the written submissions from both of our legal teams. Our concern is serious about the US, the nature of the US assurances, and they are public, so you can have a read of them. What the US is saying is that Julian can seek to rely in court on the First Amendment, but it will be a matter for the courts to decide. So what you need to understand about that is that is a non-assurance. It doesn't provide any assurance whatsoever about what will happen once Julian's, if he's extradited to the United States, what will happen and whether he'll be permitted to rely on the First Amendment. There's a very long series of cases in the United States, a line of case law, which says in clear terms that foreign nationals for acts committed outside of the United States will not benefit from First Amendment protections. So this assurance does not bind the US court, it doesn't bind a prosecutor from arguing that he will not benefit from First Amendment, and so it's no assurance at all that once in the United States he will in fact be able to rely upon First Amendment protections. And this should be concerning for all of you. This is no assurance whatsoever, and we say the court can't rely on it. In terms of the precedent this is setting, you all ought to be alert to this concern. There is very clear case law in the United States that foreign nationals will not benefit from First Amendment protections, and in these circumstances we say that the court cannot consider this to be a satisfactory assurance. But it remains to be seen what the court will do with this. If we're unsuccessful, the court will order his extradition, and this is our final avenue of appeal. We are, of course, prepared to make an application to the European Court of Human Rights, but that is an exceptional measure. It's not a guaranteed right of appeal. We'll have to wait to see what the European Court of Human Rights does. And we could be in legal process for a number of years if we end up in that. If we are successful and the court agrees with us that this is an unsatisfactory assurance, then we will be given permission to appeal and we could have a hearing.